Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the second guest of the day. I am joined by the former chairman of Agriculture Group at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, African farmer Mogaji, for discussion on the state of emergency declared on food security by the president. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you for joining us in the studio. Now, our conversation this evening is a very crucial one because food and water are both essential livelihood items. So let's start with food inflation in the country. How terrible is the situation on our hands?
It's alarming, but not beyond control. Okay. If we don't do anything fast this month of July, we would be having some mega challenges come end of the year. So a lot of strategies and planning is around what government wants to do, but the floods are coming. September, there's already forecasted that there will be some heavy floods. So if all the planning I'm seeing now, I'm not seeing any mention of the floods. So the floods will take whatever strategy is being put in place now. It may may have setback. So, but currently, we're in a bad shape.
All right. So there is this debate about affordability and availability. But the presidency has said the major issue is affordability. To what extent do you agree with that submission?
I think they need to rejig that. It's both availability and affordability. It's both. Okay. Because when a document comes out and it talks about affordability, it means it's available. So that means wrong diagnosis leads to wrong prescription. So it is more of availability, not affordability. But in some context, you will find that some produce go to waste, okay? But it does not mean that we have enough. So we don't have enough of almost anything now. And it's not the current administration that caused it. It's a backlog. But if they don't understand that availability is the main thing, they'll be working on affordability. And at the end of the day, we'll go back in cycle.
So you're saying availability before affordability?
Availability before affordability. Many farmers have not produced. Many investors, local investors, have abandoned their projects due to insurgency, due to kidnapping. Many farms across the nation is currently abandoned. Many rural farmers, the smallholder farmers, many of them cannot cultivate because the cost of input has gone up over 100%, and not because of subsidy removal. So if we don't pay attention to all this, we will be having a wrong diagnosis.
So now that the president has declared a state of emergency on food security, how critical is this?
Now, let me say this. One of the things I penned down, I asked myself if I made the Minister of Agriculture, what was the first thing I would do? And I said I would advise the president to declare a state of emergency. So when I saw that, it gladdens my heart because whoever advised the president did the right thing. What that does, it helps everybody focus on agriculture. It lets people know, investors both local and abroad, that it's not business as usual again. Now it's a national concern. Then it helps also people understand that, yes, there's a challenge ahead for the presidents, to declare a state of emergency. However, it unlocks also funding and conversations locally. Foreign investment will take some time, but once it's announced that way, it unlocks local resources coming into the value chain. People begin to talk about it. And also, it helps, like the security apparatus. A crucial conversation is people can access their investments. So it's a good thing, and it's welcome.
All right, so in the speech read by his special advisors, all matters of food and water will now be included in the purview of National Security Council. For you, how will this lead to improved food production?
Well, the details of that statement is not elaborate. So how will national security coordinate that? Are they going to coordinate through the Ministry of Agriculture? They did talk about some associations involved, but a crucial conversation we don't hear, there's an association called NABG, Nigeria Agribusiness Group, formed by or through the former Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, which is an umbrella body for private sector and the associations. So if the ministry is talking to NABG, that composes of all or a majority of the associations and the private sector, talking to one body is better than talking to about 30 associations. There's watermelon producers and marketers. In one corner, you have too many of them. So if the National Security Council is talking to everybody, it won't work. If you're talking to the ministry, it will be government focused. So you need to be talking to like NABG and other associations, that work in that value chain. But NABG is the apex. But I'm not seeing that conversation now of engaging NABG in this conversation because there's a good representation in that association. And we know Dr.
So how important is that body?
That body is very crucial because the biggest of the agricultural companies in Nigeria are also members of that association. So we're talking about, you heard an headline of about 20 different states wanting to get funding from AFDB. So associations of tomato growers association is part of NABG. Catfish farmers association, all farmers association, and they are also part of the council. So we need to focus our operations now. What used to happen is that you have governments and the ministries talking to various operators. Maize Association is also part of NABG. So we need to be talking to one body. And when NABG is going for meetings, they go with other members. So we need to narrow and let a private sector-led organization be in charge, communicating with government, with the interest of the sector at heart. If we don't do that, we may run in cycles because, one, government doesn't have the funding like they used to have. They have to laser focus. Trying to laser focus means talking to the right people, which is very crucial.
Absolutely. So other measures taken by the government are release of grains and fertilizers. The question is, how will the common man benefit from this?
It's like other administrations. We have very detailed good intentions. Good intentions is different from good implementation. Now, if we come out to say you want to distribute fertilizers, how will you distribute the fertilizers? Who will get it? Which farmers will get it? Is it regionally? What we've seen over the years is that these things don't get to the right places. It's mostly diverted. Then the most crucial conversation is these fertilizers, before they give it out, will they ascertain that it's the best quality? Because most of the incentives given in this country, many of them are low quality inputs. So even if you give the farmer, and he's supposed to use maybe 8 bags for a football field, and each bag is like MPK 15, 15, 15, but the content mostly is less than 10 for many, not all. So if you give garbage to the farmers or the private sector buys it, it will go, the project will fail. And that's the crucial thing that has happened to many farmers in the last few years. So bottom line is quality of what you are giving out. Please ascertain that it is quality before you give it. And how? If you just talk about fertilizers, unfortunately in the country also, we just give out fertilizers. No soil tests. And the soil may not need the fertilizers given out. So it's waste. And if it is credit, it is bad credit from source. So we need to rejig things. We cannot do it as business as usual. It's good the government wants to do it, but through what channels will they do it to ensure that we ensure food security on the immediate? Very crucial.
So in this regard, what exactly is your advice?
My advice is connect with NABG. Connect with other stakeholders. Let us internally give you solutions. Because we are players. We've been burnt. Many of us have been burnt in the last 3-4 years. So we know where the shoe pinches. The rural farmers, if you talk to them, we all go through the same thing. So let it be bottom-up approach. This administration must not tolerate people sitting in offices and believing that they know, what the players need. It is the players that should talk to them and not just a handful of players. Get it done. When foreigners are coming with projects, they bring everybody important. They map it out and they bring everybody, and you sit down for 3 days. And after that 3 days, it's a concession. What we see here is 1, 2, 3. They just pick 1, 2, 3. And because it's sharp, it's spoken about a lot of things in that document that it's not easy. Agriculture is like a moving target. If you want to shoot a moving target, you have to be patient. And because many things, climate is changing, many vagaries, things are happening. So bottom line is that it should not be business as usual. It should be bottom up and not up down. And enough of all these consultant. See, when we're talking about herdsmen, take for instance, herdsmen, the people who have, preferred solutions for years are in this country. MD Abubakar, for instance, they've sorted these things out. Just call them to the table and implement what they say. And as a business, their business is growing, even though challenged, but these things they have done. So we need to fish out this, and let me tell you, the ministry knows them.
Okay.
We know who has done what successfully. So we just need to get the players involved now so that the challenges of the previous administrations, plural now, not administrations, will not be a hanging rope for this administration, because they are in a tough situation. And the good thing is that, when there's darkness and you put on a candle, the light illuminates.
Absolutely.
This administration has the opportunity to light a candle and illuminate the whole country by feeding us. But you must use the right people.
All right, I get that. So I'm sure you would agree with me that most times the issue with agriculture in Nigeria is improved crop yields.
Yes.
So how can the farmers be assisted this time around to get more yields for crops?
Fundamentally, it has to do with seeds and soil.
Okay.
So in the north, we have overused our soils in the north. In other regions, they still have more fertile soils. However, there is technology in the country today that even if you have an extremely bad soil, you can give nutrients from the leaves to the crop. Once it germinates, you can give nutrients. So if interventions don't, and these things are premium, if interventions don't bring those inputs that would allow the farmers be able to use an alternative source of passing nutrients into the crop. So take, for instance, when you take injection, the injection flows into your body system faster, than taking capsules.
Absolutely.
So we need to change dynamics, and this is that. Then the soil, we need to have mobile soil kits. We need to, the job creation that this administration is talking about, we need to have people with mobile soil test kits that can go around the country in different local governments, empowered to do the soil test on the spot. They can check for moisture. They can even check for the sunshine, sunlight. But bottom line is that soil and seeds. Then the seed companies have been forgotten in this country. We have seed companies that have the Nigerian experts, who can deliver these crops, but their funding is long-term. They don't get the right funding. They don't get long-term funding because you never see what they are doing. Many research institutes have many improved varieties that needs to be commercialized. We need to pay attention to that. We need to fund long-term funding for these seed companies to scale whatever they have. If we're able to do that, productivity is something that would happen. Enough of production. Every administration has focused more on production in their implementation, but in their documentation, they talk about productivity, high yield. But in the input you give them, so take for instance, the highest yielding maize is imported from Brazil, from Mexico, and from the United States, but they deliver results. But we have also seeds here that can do something similar. But what we've done over the years is, because we are not paying attention to how the seed is distributed. Most of the warehouses in Nigeria, it's supposed to be refrigerated. It's hot. So when the farmer buys the seed, it has not expired, but it does not germinate. So it's a chain.
All right. So despite abundant water resources, seasonal farming is still common. So what do you think the government can do to ensure all year-round farming?
Let me balance this conversation.
All right.
There will always be seasonal farming. Okay. Always, globally. For some grains, most grains is harvested October, November, globally, because of the scale we need them, especially all the grains, But when it comes to fruits and vegetables, we can produce them all year round. The river basins are crucial conversations that we must, engage with now. They have not been efficiently been in operation. I can say this because I've been a river basin farmer since 1995, consistently across this country. So you have the silting that needs to happen is not happening. Many of those we have 25,000 acres. The land is 25,000 acres, but the functional irrigation may just be 10,000 acres. So these are conversations we need to present the truth to the administration so that the administration can get it right. But we need irrigation. We need a more robust irrigation scheme where smallholder farmers can get irrigation credits. I went to India to understudy this. And so the rural farmer gets 70% discount to pay for a longer time. The private sector also gets, but they get like 50%. So bottom line is that we need a robust irrigation scheme to be implemented, and we need to position it around most of our rivers, position it around most of the dams. What we're currently doing, where most of the big irrigations, especially in the north, is flood. So it's like a fish pond. You release water in, when it's full, you release it out. These things are not efficient again, considering that climate is changing. But for now, there's nothing we can do about it. But we need it, especially Southwest and South generally. We need to up our game. The governors, they are more important than the president and the presidency now when it comes to irrigation farming, for us to be able to plant all year round. There's too much pressure on the center. It's not the center's fault. It's the governors and the local government chairman that should ensure irrigation, is put in place. They are the ones to bring in the investors. They are the ones to do the packaging, not federal government. It's the state. So now we need to mount more. We need to lobby the state governors to be able to do the job to ensure that we are food secure.
All right, so let's quickly talk about transportation and storage, which are also other critical challenges in this regard. What would you advise the government to do to address this?
Now, over the years, I believe in start with what you have. We have not been bringing the NURTW, the road transport network, to conversations. Most of them don't speak English. They speak their local languages. We try to eliminate them. In trying to eliminate them from conversations, they are not part of it. And because most of them are not educated, they are looking at always short-term and medium-term. But we need to have conversations with them on a long-term. Because I can tell you, there was a year we grew cucumber. We lost about 150 bags. We had paid 50% deposits to the bus drivers, and they were supposed to come, and somehow they were calling, we're coming, we're almost there. But at the end of the day, they didn't show up. So those cucumbers got bad. So for what we have now, we need to embrace those people, and we need to create alternatives. We need to fund, this system to be able to work, and storage also.
So quickly before we go, we're out of time. The government has promised creation of National Commodity Board. What will be the impact of such body in 30 seconds? In
30 seconds is a welcomed idea, but we need to choose, we need to know which one are we starting with first, because we don't have the infrastructure. It takes some time, and the government needs to start producing on the river basins to check the prices with other things produced outside. That's one form of board. There are like 6. There's no time.
Thank you very much. I've been speaking with the former chairman of Agriculture Group at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, African farmer Mogaji, tonight to discuss a state of emergency declared on food security by the president. Thank you very much, Mr. Mogaji, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Join us for the repeat episode at midnight and on Monday for another edition of Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Goodbye.